All right, and now on the line we have UFC Hall of Famer, Pride Grand Prix champion, one of my favorite fighters ever, Mark the Hammer Coleman. Mark, what's going on, man?
The myth, the legend.
Well, I'm doing pretty good, but I asked you for 15 minutes, but I really needed 20 because I'm not done shit. I'm on the shitter as we speak. And, I guess that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, did you have did you have a big meal last night, and that's why you're still stuck?
Well, I don't know what it's from, but I'm still stuck.
We've all been there. We went to a baseball game the other day, and we ate so much that that was me at work yesterday. I felt terrible. I missed at least an hour at work. Just
so
sitting
many
on the
hot
toilet.
dogs, dude. Oh my god.
Well, it's a peaceful place to be.
It's one of the few places where I feel like myself.
It's like a totally.
Yeah.
So
we're good, man.
So
how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I gotta tell you, it's really cool talking to you. I actually did get to meet you back in New Jersey, back at before UFC 128. And I go to all the events when they're nearby. And when I met you, it's one of the few times I was a little like, holy shit, because I was watching you back when you were in the UFC 10. That was like what, 1998, I think, 97, 98.
97.
Yeah, I was watching with my dad and my brother, and I was all of 8 years old. And when I meet you, and one of the things I loved about seeing you was there were these guys coming up asking for autographs over and over again, and you were the only fighter I've ever seen call them out for going out and selling it for $400 or $500 on eBay. You were like, "You're gonna go sell this shit and make money off me? Why don't you just be honest with me?"
Yeah, but I was joking when I said.
Yeah, I know. You weren't nasty
joking,
about it.
But at the same time, Dana White made it clear to us. Look, you got those guys down in the basement. They've been sitting there all day with gloves, and they give you 10 pitchers. They suck you in with 10 pitchers. Then all of a sudden they ask you to sign 20 of them, and they want you to sign some Pride gloves and this and that. He says you're just hurting yourself. You know what I mean? You're just hurting yourself because I'm the one that busted my ass for 45 years.
Right. Yeah, I mean you've been.
Why should I just, okay, I'll sign a glove for you, but what's your name?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. The way you handled it, because I've seen fighters that don't necessarily handle fans like that well. You were coming off like jokingly, like you were like saying like, "Hey, I know what you're doing," like. But you were really cool about it. You know, there are a few fighters that don't handle it as well. But I was absolutely a little starstruck when I met you. I mean, you're an NCAA champion. You placed 7th in the '92 Olympics. UFC 10 winner, first UFC heavyweight champion. You came back at UFC 100 and beat Stephan Bonner. Where I'll admit, I didn't think you were gonna win, and when you won, I went nuts. I was like, holy shit! Like, no one gave you a chance in that fight. You said fuck you. You said fuck you, Tito, to Tito Ortiz after a fight, which I absolutely loved.
I loved it.
Well, that's a complicated situation there because Tito had every right to be pissed off at me, but really it wasn't me. It was my manager that talked shit about his wife and stuff and that. Well, I don't go there, you know.
Yeah,
Tito,
no, you've never been like that. I mean, you guys.
No, I can call Tito a douchebag to it. You know, that's fair game. But I'm not going to ever talk about somebody's family.
No,
right.
My manager did this without me having any clue what he was doing. And all of a sudden I had people call me saying, you got to check this article out that your manager did. And when I read it, I was just disgusted. I was so pissed. And, Tito was pissed, obviously, because he still felt like I had something to do with that. And then eventually we had to do a four-man. Jay Glazer was the host, and it was me, Tito, I think Randy Couture, and I forget who the fourth guy was. But that's the first time I'm going to see Tito since that came out. And I walked right up to him. They was getting him ready with the makeup, and I walked right up to him. He looked over at me, and his face just went mean, real mean.
Yeah.
And I said, look, Tito, I'm going to tell you straight up, I had absolutely nothing to do with that garbage. That's garbage. I said, I had nothing to do with it, and I can call you a douchebag I can call you a douchebag, but I would never say nothing about your wife or kids or family or nothing like that. That's crossing the line.
Yeah,
I think that definitely
he looked at me and he thought about it for a little bit, and then I had my hand out for a handshake, and he shook my hand, and we squashed it. So,
well, that's cool because I like I said, I was laughing when after the post-fight interview when you said "fuck you, Tito," and I do remember all the articles being on like Bloody Elbow and MMA Mania when all that was going on about. I think it was when he was still with Jenna Jameson, correct?
yes. Well,
Yeah.
what happened is I just got rake choked by Randy Couture, and Tito comes up and he said, "Paybacks are a bitch, Coleman. Paybacks are a bitch."
Yeah.
And that's when I turned around and Joe had to, and I think Rogan had the mic in my hand. I grabbed it and said, I yelled out the F you to him and this and that. But paybacks, you didn't pay me back just now. Randy Couture just beat me. He had nothing to pay me back for, but you have something to pay me back for. But really, you're wrong because I had absolutely nothing to do with what was said about your wife.
Yeah, I mean, you were in the sport for from the early days, and you were never someone to go that personal route. I mean, your camp at Hammer House, you had guys that talked a lot, but you were never one of them to get like that at all, ever. Not that you and Kevin Randleman never went that route.
Well, Kevin could give one heck of an interview.
Oh,
Rest
he was, yeah.
Rest in peace. I mean, I love him so much. I miss him so much, but
he was
Kevin
one of the best, man.
Kevin was pretty damn good on the mic, and he was awesome in the cage. When he prepared properly, he was a tough man to handle. But sometimes you step into the cage and you're not prepared.
Well, you guys were probably one of the camps I can think of the most that would fight no matter how injured you are. You guys never pulled out of fights back in the day.
Yep, for the most part, that's Hammer House. We did that. We got in there, but back on the Monster, he had more charisma than any person.
Oh my God, he did. I mean, I
But
think
at the same time, don't get me wrong. Just prior to right when it's getting close to the fight, he would turn into the Monster.
yeah, completely different. That's all I ever heard about him was like before leading up to a fight, the friendliest, most energetic guy. But then the fight starts, and both you guys hit that switch where it was just a completely different ball game. And
Well, I'm talking like, when it's getting close, he would turn into the Monster because, hey, we're not playing marbles out there. We're going in getting ready for a war.
Yeah.
So there is some fear and demons you got to battle heading into that, and it can cause you to, say some things you don't want to say because over in Japan, they would always have one person following you around the whole time. Well, they put two on random and followed him around. And one time before his fight, he's like, they kept bringing those bento boxes with some fish and some rice, this and that, and Randleman we didn't know how good they were because we just never tried them. We didn't trust them. But then Phil Brony came over there with me once, and he ate 10 of them. And I said, "What?" I said, "What the heck?" Well, it was his cheat day, of course, because the Brony's, he's the one that convinced me I don't need to be that much bigger and still carry around 5 pounds of, extra right around the waist, just like putting a 5-pound weight on your back. He's the one that convinced me. Because one time we're out eating sushi, we're eating healthy, this and that. I got a fight coming up, and then I ordered 2 pieces of shrimp tempura. Well, I felt his eyeballs look at me, and he didn't say nothing the first night, but we went right back there the second day, and he had the guts to say, "You eat like a freaking pig, Coleman."
you never looked like it. I'll tell you that much. You were a specimen.
Well, sometimes. I mean, if you look closely, and I said, "What are you talking about, Phil? I'm a heavyweight, and I need to be big." He goes, "Well, no, you don't." He goes, "You don't need to be big with an extra 5 pounds around your waist." He goes, "You're not going to lose any strength." And he had to convince me, and he finally got through to me to eat clean, real clean. I was eating 80% clean, but I needed to boost it up to 95.
And it makes all the difference in the world, yeah.
Well, it did, because this was right before the Shogun Hua fight, the first Shogun Hua fight, and I came in weighing 224.
Yeah,
but
I was
Chisel.
going to actually ask you about that fight because the way it ended, obviously, I don't know if my guys in the studio, my co-hosts know about it, but
I've seen that fight, yeah.
Shogun landed awkwardly and broke his arm, and you didn't realize it, so you were just continuing the fight. And between Hammer House and Shoot the Box, two of the most hot-headed camps out there, it escalated very quickly. And you even handled it so well because you understood completely why they responded like that because your camp's a family and their camp's a family. And go on.
Well, yeah, I mean, Pride gave me 3 months' notice, and they did not want me to win that fight. Shogun Hua was their up-and-coming star, and usually when they don't want you to win, they let Shogun Hua know he's going to be fighting me in 3 months, but then they normally, for example, when I fought Crow Cop, they let Crow Cop know months earlier, and he brought in 5 Russian wrestlers to teach him how to stop my double leg. And they gave me 2 weeks notice. They called me up, and I said, hell no, I'm not fighting Crow Cop. Are you kidding me? I'm sitting on the couch right now drinking a beer. I said, no, but that's their tactic is they do that. And then they say, okay, and then they up the money offer a little bit, and I say, no, a little bit quieter. Then they up it another notch, and I say, no, a little bit quieter. And they up it another notch, and I'm like, oh, man.
How can I say no?
Yeah.
Well, they said last offer, Coleman, and I said, oh, jeez. And basically, you sold your soul to the devil because there's no way I'm going to beat Crow Cop with 2 weeks training.
Yeah, and that was Crow Cop. Not only did he bring in the Russian wrestlers, it gave him one of the best takedown defense games in the sport. On top of it, and he was a monster as is. So
yeah, well, I got out there and I'm facing Crow Cop, and here we go. I got to get him on the ground quick because I don't have a big gas tank today. And I shot my first double leg, and I ran into 2 tree trunk steel poles of a leg. His sprawl was advanced. It was an advanced sprawl. He sprawled and he circled.
Yeah.
That's advanced wrestling. And I realized right then, oh, geez, man, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. So
Yeah.
I gave it 3 or 4 attempts, and then I pretty much I didn't quit, but I knew I knew it was just a matter of time. But he had told the promoters he's going to left high kick me to the head. His patented left leg high kick to my head. I wasn't going to go out like that, so I definitely had my hand pinned up against my left head, but I didn't have, there just wasn't no options. I couldn't take him down, and I'm certainly not going to be able to trade with this guy.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned how Pride, they set that up, because I remember when Rampage Jackson made his Pride debut, he had talked about, he fought against Sakuraba in his debut, and he said that Pride offered him money backstage to, I guess, keep the fight standing rather than go to the ground, or go to the ground rather than keep it standing, because obviously Sakuraba was one of their prizes over there, one of their top guys.
For sure.
So it sounds like, obviously all these years later, we know about how Pride operated business. Pride's my favorite organization I've ever watched, but we know that they had their guys they had to prop up.
They had some sneaky tricks to help build that into the powerhouse it was. It was some sneaky tricks and some, obviously some stuff that, leave it at that. But, Quentin, they wanted exciting fights. They wanted exciting fights.
Sure. Well, one of the fights I wanted to ask you about, and this might be a sore subject, but, the Pride 5 with Takada. There was a lot of controversy about you losing that fight, and I think your quote was that, I needed money. So it more or less is that kind of what the situation was?
Well, they gave me 2 weeks notice, and it was supposed to be a pro wrestling match. That's how they pushed it to me, and had to feed the kids.
You did what you had to do.
Leave it at that. But he got me, and he got me.
That's it. Well, another one of
you guys take it for what it is.
I will tell you, one of my all-time favorite MMA moments, and I would be a terrible fan if I didn't ask about this, was after you won the Pride 2000 Grand Prix and your celebration. I got to tell you, you fell. It's a famous GIF and video. I have the DVD box set of it. It's one of my favorite possessions I have. And the way I got to tell you, if that was me, I would have just sat there and been like, I just got to roll out of here. You got up and you look happier than anyone could look ever. And I mean, now it's got to be. What was your thoughts as that happened and you came down crashing to the mat?
Well, yeah, I got a little emotional just hearing that because I have made, I've been pretty down since the UFC cut me after the Couture fight. I'm not going to deny it. It's been 6 years of battling with, depression.
Yeah.
And so I made some bad choices, and I haven't really done much. I kind of went into hibernation, but right now I'm in a good place. I'm sober.
Congratulations. That's fantastic.
Congratulations, man.
Yes. I mean, yes, it's so important. It's the only way. It's the only way for me.
Yeah.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot control and the courage to change the things I can. I live by that.
Amen.
Now.
That's awesome.
And there's, it's all about standing upright and being confident. That's where I'm at right now. There's still some there's still some demons that I'm battling, but you know what? I think it comes out in my voice. I'm making another comeback. Yeah, you can't keep the hammer down. You talk about the Grand Prix. Well, nobody gave me a chance at winning that.
No,
thing.
they didn't.
I gave myself a chance at winning that thing, and
That's all you needed, bro.
I had a great 8-month training camp, and I went into that thing relatively super healthy and in probably the best shape of any fight that I ever been into.
And you went through some dogs in that too. Igor, you had to fight, who was an animal.
Well, I caught some breaks during the tournament, but at the same time, it wouldn't have mattered. I was ready I was going to mark Kerr, for example.
Yeah, smashing machine, yeah.
That was going to be a hell of a battle, but we lost, and then Fujita got hurt. Well, Pride made a big mistake. They should have brought in the alternate, which was supposedly going to be Wanderlei Silva, because Fujita was hurt. But they told him if he don't get out there and fight, he's not going to get his third place prize money, or whatever. And so they sent him out there, and people don't realize that in official record books, it was a 2-second win. I'm pretty sure that's the fastest victory in MMA history.
Yes.
But people don't acknowledge it or recognize it. I don't blame them. I'm just saying, Pride blew that one because I would have. You create your own luck, and yes, was the Lord on my side that night? Yes, he was, but it wouldn't have mattered. I was going to beat Igor no matter what because I was ready to go for a long time. Kerr would have been a classic. It would have been a classic battle, but
oh man, that would have been.
I'm very confident I had his number because I had beaten him in wrestling 3 times, and I was kind of his mentor.
Yeah,
a little bit, and. Well, I knew I was going to beat Kerr. It was going to be a tough one, and then I had it all planned out. Here's how it's going to go. Then I got Igor in the finals, and it was supposed to be a 20-minute time limit. Well, the day before, they changed the rule and said it's going to be a no time limit fight. And it just crushed my heart because I said, "Oh my gosh, Igor, how." I didn't visualize how I was going to be able to finish this guy because I know this guy can fight for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm not too sure if I can go for 2 hours, so I didn't know how I was going to beat this guy. Plus, they changed the rule. You couldn't you weren't able to knee a downed opponent to the head. And, that was one of my best
when people sprawled for you to take them down, their head's there. Why wouldn't you knee the shit out of them?
Well, they sprawl, and then I come up. I'm in a front headlock position, and I like to fire the knees from right there. But you couldn't do it when the guy was face down. But you were allowed to knee a guy that was on his back to the head, which doesn't make any sense, I guess. But how you going to get somebody on his back? All you got to do is belly down. I can't knee him anymore. But I somehow got him stuck in that corner. And I just heard Pat Militech, bless him. He was, I
One of the best.
saw my own. I was ready. I trained myself for 8 months, it was kind of like a grind, like a wrestling grind to become a national champion. It's an 8-month grind to get there. But then I showed up at Militech's for about the last 2 weeks, and he probably anticipated me showing up, maybe needing to fine-tune the cardio, but I showed up, and he put me through one hell of a grind in the first practice, and then we went and hit the famous hill out there. He had that famous hill that you had to run, and I thought practice was over, and go home, get something to eat, lay in bed, and get ready for tomorrow. But then he looks at me and says, "Well, you ready to go run some hills?" And but I just said, "Sure, let's go." I feel good. And then I went to the famous hill, and I ran up that bitch 9 times like he asked.
Hell yeah.
And, he realized, he knew I was in shape. He knew I was in shape. He just had he's a incredibly smart man. He just figured out
one of the best he's one of the best coaches there's been. He was one of the first guys to really introduce that kind of cross training that became what mixed martial arts is now.
He's brilliant, and I still owe Pat some money from that damn fight because I didn't take care of him. But it's just something that at the time I didn't think about it,
Yeah.
And but he's made it clear. I asked him down the road, I said, "Well, you think I can come out there and train with you guys again?" He's like, "Well, you think maybe you can pay me?"
Yeah.
Pay me to train you? I said, yeah, yeah, of course. I owe you, Pat, I know, but give me some time. I said, when I get the money, I owe him, and I love him, and I'll get him some money. I'll get him some money when I make it. Right now, I'm back. Don't count the hammer out.
No, there's
they counted me out for dead before the 2000 Grand Prix
against Stephen Bonner, man. I'm one of your biggest fans, and I thought Bonner was going to beat you. I was so thrilled that I was wrong.
Everybody did, but guess what? I had a good training camp.
Yeah, and you took advantage of his mediocre wrestling, and you controlled the fight, and you beat the hell out of him on top. It was I'll reference that fight pretty regularly as like one of my 10 favorite moments because of the fact that me as a fan of yours didn't give you a chance. I was thrilled to be wrong. I love being right, but there's certain times I'm happy to be wrong, and that was one of those times.
Well, the Grand Prix, I was counting out for the dead, and then the Shogun Hua fight.
Yeah.
They gave me no chance where they made a mistake. They gave me no chance. They made a mistake, and they let me know 3 months in advance that I'm going to be fighting him because they didn't think there was any way in hell I could beat him. So
yeah, because that was like 23-year-old Shogun Hua who was just everything in Pride at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, but they gave me 3 months, and little did they know, I'm going to train, and they don't bet your house against me.
Hell yeah! So would you say that the Pride 2000 Grand Prix is like the highlight of your fighting career? Is that like your number one moment personally?
It's just so hard to separate. UFC 10 was just.
Yeah.
UFC 10 was amazing. I really, the Don Fry fight, I couldn't believe it. It was he's one of my best friends now. I love him to death, but everybody asks who's the toughest fighter you ever fought. I say toughest or best. When it comes to toughness,
Don Fry, baby,
is the toughest because I beat him, and I was getting scared. Why aren't they stopping this? Why aren't they
you
stopping
put a pounding
this?
on him.
Yeah, a bad one. And they should have. You'll never see a fight like that ever again.
No.
Because they'll never let anything go like that.
If that happened now, someone would lose a job.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because it was bad, and I was getting scared. I honestly felt like I'm going to have to kill this guy. I'm going to have to kill him, and I'm not a killer.
No, you're a gentle man.
I like to win.
Yeah,
but I don't want to kill.
You're a competitor.
I'm a competitor. I've been a competitor since I came out of my mama's. The day she pushed me out, I was doing push-ups.
So you said that Don Fry was your toughest opponent, and I was going to ask you. You're someone that fought Fedor Emelianenko twice.
Right.
Who was your best opponent?
Well, let's go through the list.
You fought who's who.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to go with Fedor, but then you got Nogueira, then you got Krokop, then you got Shogun. The B7 at the time was in his prime. I'm skipping somebody. You know, Pedro Hizzle was. I fought all my losses. 9 out of the 10 losses, all 9 of those guys were either ranked number 1 or number 2 in the world at the time when I fought them. So I fought 10 world champions, and I fought more than it. I beat, because a lot of those I lost, but I squeaked out. I was past my prime when I started. When I started UFC, I was 31 years old. I mean, I was still in my prime right then, I'd say, but it quickly goes downhill fast because the clock ticks fast. And, I held on and I fought as long as I could. Thank the Lord. I made it till I was 45 years old. Now you're not going to ever see anybody in an octagon.
No.
45, and then Couture was 46. That's a record that'll never be broken.
No shot. I mean, they don't make them like you guys anymore. I mean, I remember the fight that I remember the first time where you were vulnerable. Obviously, was the Maurice Smith fight, and that was a brutal fight for you. You kicked the hell out of your legs.
Well, I just posted a picture of the after picture of my legs. If you want to go to Instagram, follow me at Instagram, Mark D. Coleman, and look up that picture. I don't think people liked me posting it because it's horrible. It's an ugly picture. My legs from my ass to my ankles, both of them were.
We're looking at it right now, actually.
Oh my God.
Purple and black. Purple and black.
You have a sad face in the picture too.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
You have a sad face in the picture, like, oh, this is gonna be rough sitting on the. Yeah, you're gonna have trouble taking a shit for a while after that.
Oh yeah, well, but that fight, I don't know how, because I didn't train. It's the truth. I don't want to make an excuse, but when I beat Dan Severn, I was never arrogant, underestimate anybody in wrestling or in fighting. But after I beat Severn, I'm reading about myself on the internet. It went to my head. I got to fight a kickboxer. I was telling myself, this is going to be an easy one. And, Frank Shamrock was his coach. And about 2 months before the fight, he probably seen the arrogance in me. And he said, hey, Coleman, you better train for me. He said, I'm coaching Maurice, right? I go, yeah, I said something like, that's too bad for you. He looked at me and said, oh, man, he goes, Coleman, I'm telling you, you better just train. That's all I'm saying. As your friend, you better train. I didn't listen. And, I damn near killed him in the first 3 minutes. Well, It's not a 3. He survived, and it's not a 3-minute fight. I took a break. Big John was just about ready to stop the fight, he told me later. He was just about ready to stop it when I took a break. I made eye contact with Maurice Smith. He didn't say nothing at that point, but I read his eyes. I read his mind. He's like, yep, Coleman, you're already getting tired, and we got 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, and that was, and then the next fight was the famous Pete Williams knockout, which, it ended up on every Ultimate Knockouts highlight, and that was just, he was one of the young guns at Lions Den, and that was, but that's why one of the reasons going into Pride, everyone wrote you off. You lost 4 in a row to Maurice Smith, Pete Williams, Pedro Izzo, and then you come to Pride and lose to Takada, and then you do the Grand Prix, and you ran through everyone there, and then, the opponent you went on to face after that, you fought Nogueira, Don Fry, and then again going back to Fedor. I've always heard when it comes to Fedor
again, and then Shogun Huo rematch, and then Stephen Bonner, and then finish out with the great Randy Couture, which that's really one of my. I just hate the fact that my career ended on that note because I was in pretty good shape, but just pretty good, and then when he come walking into, I'm going to put you in the stranglehold, baby, and the crowd went nuts. I'm standing in the cage. My confidence was slowly going down, and then he walked into the cage. I looked over at him, and I said, damn, he's a lot bigger than I remember because we had practiced together a few times 15 years earlier, and I'm not going to say I manhandled him, but I was the much bigger, stronger person at the time. And now this time he walked in, I looked at his legs, I looked at him, I'm like, geez, he's pretty big.
So,
and then I went out there and I just froze up. I absolutely just froze. I couldn't pull the trigger on anything, and then I couldn't go to my bread and butter because he was a damn good wrestler, and I couldn't take him down. And he's a much better boxer than me, and he was like, I didn't have a whole lot of head movement, in case you didn't notice, and he was just picking me apart, a straight jab, and the first punch was a straight jab, and I'm like, oh, geez, you dumbass, move your head a little bit. But,
well, the one thing I wanted to ask is, you said you fought Fedor twice, and he's one of the few fighters I've heard his opponents say, going into a fight with him, seeing Fedor, he almost had this like aura because he was such a.
He didn't almost have the aura. He had the aura. That guy was like a god walking in. When he walked in, his presence so peaceful, so calm, and that's him.
Yeah, and then the fight starts, and he's just a wrecking ball. I always think about when Kevin Randleman German suplexed him right onto his neck, and then a minute and a half later, he's on top of him and submits him. And the fact that didn't kill him, the calmness just has to be so off-putting when you're about to fight this guy, and he looks like he could be doing anything else in the world.
Well, it was like an inch and a half off. If Kevin would have had it just an inch different, it would have killed him. Yeah. It might have killed him. It might have broke his neck, but he missed it by like a half inch, and Fedor tucked his head just enough.
He broke his ribs, though, I think, on impact. Didn't Fedor break at least one rib when he landed?
I have no idea. I never heard that story, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, once that was Kevin's one chance right there. And then, Fedor calmly just quickly reversed him and put him in a key lock, and that was that. But his opportunity passed.
So
and then
you say
Randleman's got some of that and the knockout of Crow Cop.
Yeah.
And he's got other highlights that people never seen, where he was north-south on somebody.
Oh, my God. He was...
He would jump up in the air with both legs, and he would come down, and he would fire one knee, and he'd fire the other knee before he hit the ground. I've never seen anybody
that guy was a freaking, like, I look at the way that he was such a physical specimen, and there's this guy that's in WWE now named Bobby Lashley, and they talk about his physique, and I'm like, yeah, but he ain't Kevin Randleman. Like, I always think about that guy was just such a freak. He was such a good athlete, and everything I've ever read about him and seen with him, he was such an awesome individual, and sounds like, obviously one of your best friends in the world.
Yeah, for sure. I got to coach him in college, and he came to college as he was a state champion, but when he got there, he wasn't happy there. And the story about that is I walked into the first practice, and I just won the Nationals a year earlier. Ohio State had hired me as a coach, and I came strolling into the first practice where all the guys were up against the wall, and the head coach was giving them the first day talk, and I walked in Hammer House style about 2-3 minutes late, and I walked in and I'm checking out the new meat, and see what we got here. You got 50 guys, and you can't have 50 guys. There wasn't enough space for 50 guys, so you got to weed them out. You got to weed out the guys, and the only way to weed them out is by, a lot of guys they just want to be on the team. Well, we don't have space for you people that just want to be on the team, so you clean them out real quick. You're able to clean them out real quick, so you got the space needed. But Randleman, I was coaching the upper weights, and he was right in there. He wasn't an upper weight. He weighed about 175, but he fought at 158 at that year. So I really didn't see him much at all. I was up coaching my guys, and he was down, and honestly, he was. Everybody was putting it to him. He wasn't happy being there. He liked going home every week to Sandusky, and and then I found out something later. So I had dealt with him. We came back from Christmas break, and we're in the weight room, and I'm in there getting ready to. The weights were my baby. Strength.
Yeah.
Strength is a technique. It's a very important technique. Absolutely it is. And I started lifting weights when I was 10 years old, and I didn't miss. I did not miss a weight training session because I knew strength was when I was a kid, any problem I ever had, I said, I just got to get bigger, faster, stronger. And Randleman walks by, and I said, hey, I asked him if he wanted to be my partner today. And he looked at me like kind of in shock a little bit, like, you want to train with me? I said, yeah, I ain't got nobody party. You want to train? He's like, well, hell yes, I do. And then we trained, and I find out later after that first training session, because we had all eyes on us. By the end of that training session, everybody in the room was watching me and him just yank. We didn't. I was old school. We wasn't into technique. We was into putting as much weight on that thing as you can and get
You
it.
guys were all massive individuals, from Baroni to Wes Sims to Randleman. You.
Get it down and pull that weight any way you can. Get it on the lat, pull it down, stack that thing up, and rip it. But so, anyways, Randleman runs home that day. I find out later he ran home. He called his mom. And he said, "Mom, he likes me."
He was all excited. You made a huge impact on him.
That's cool,
I
though.
didn't know this, but he was under the impression that I didn't like him and I potentially was a racist or something like that, and I didn't have any clue about this. Well, no, Kevin. I just, I was coaching the upper weights, but after that first weight training session, I said, "Look, dude," I said, "you can be my partner every day." And he said, "Hell yes." And he did whatever I asked. I couldn't. It was hard to break that guy. He would do whatever. I'm trying to break him, and I got him doing 50 rep sets sometimes, just trying to get him to quit. He just would never quit. I just keep taking more weight off. He's down to just bench pressing the bar.
Yeah.
And I'm spotting him, but he wouldn't quit until I pull it back and rack the weights. He was an animal, and I was installing my mentality into him, and he went from getting his butt whooped by everybody in the room, and then I got him on the mission and got him in that weight room, and he put on like 20 pounds pretty quick. He got bigger, stronger.
He was a freak. He looked like he was just a genetic freak with a ridiculous work ethic.
Yeah, he was definitely blessed by the Lord with genetics, but at the same time, that you got to still add to them genetics.
Yeah.
Well, he went home. It was time for summer break. I said, "Look, Kevin," I said, "listen, I showed you the way." I said, "When I see you in 3 months," I said, "I fully expect to see you, bigger, and I fully expect all the things we've done. I fully expect your max to go way up. So when I see you in 3 months for the beginning of next year, that's what I'm expecting out of you, Kevin. Don't go home and do what a lot of people do. It's the summer, it's the all season. You're going to go out and have a lot of fun." Well, no, he came back, and I looked at him, and yes, he came back the monster.
Hell yeah.
He went from getting beat by just about everybody in our room to he took second in the country that year. He could have won it. He could have easily won it not easily, but he could have won it. He beat the guy he lost to in the Big Tens 2 weeks earlier, and then they had a hell of a match going, and I forget his name, Mark Ryland from Iowa.
Okay.
I got a bad memory, horrible memory, but there's things that I just can remember. Mark Ryland was his name from Iowa. He had a patented move that he used on everybody, and he pinned probably 30 guys that year, and Randleman had beat him in a crazy 12 to 10 match in the Big Tens, and
Sounds like it was a total battle.
Yes, the fans were going nuts, and Dan Gable and Royce Alger were in. I can't remember the guy he had, but they had a big rivalry going. He wrestled that guy like 5 times.
Wow.
I think it was Ryder 5 times throughout that year. Somehow they met here, they met there, they met there. Maybe it was only 4, 3, but
So you said you
Gable and Alger were in his corner, and it was me and Russ Hellickson in the other corner. So, that match was because Gable wanted to beat Randleman so bad. He wanted to beat him so bad because that's just Gable.
Yeah.
Gable's the greatest.
One of the best ever.
Time.
Yeah.
The best ever. Now, Chael Sanderson's putting his mark as.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Right there with Dan Gable. But Dan Gable, I got the honor of having him coach me in the Pan American Games. In the first practice I went through, it's not like other coaches don't ask you to work hard, but Dan Gable had the aura of him. when he's watching you.
You don't want to let him down.
Usually when a coach is watching you, you're going to go hard, but as soon as he turns his back and walks away, a lot of guys would just hug each other and take a little break. But when Dan Gable walked away, you could still feel his eyeballs staring at you. So
certain guys like that just have that. They have that effect when they're in a room. It's like you
some
don't.
guys, Dan Gable had it. He had it. And, but anyways, that Big Ten match, it was him and Roy Salinger in their corner, and then the crowd was. They was screaming and booing Randleman because he had the lead, and he went into the. When you got a lead in wrestling, let's face it, you gotta go into. You don't want to stall, but he just slowed down, and the Iowa fans thought he should be getting called for stalling or whatever, and they started they were throwing shit on the mat after
shit.
that match. It was crazy, and then me and Gable, Hellickson was staring at Gable, I'm staring at Elger, and are we going to come over and turn this into a MMA fight here? No.
That would have been something. A first.
It would have been something, but we'll go back to the pride. I keep jumping around. I always do this, but we'll go back to the pride after.
I wanted to ask you a specific question. You said that you're in a good place. You're sober. That's amazing to hear. Congratulations. I know you had some health issues a few years back. I remember Wes Sims started a GoFundMe for you, which I contributed to. I talked to Wes when it was going on. I was happy to see you.
I want to thank everybody right now that gets a chance to hear this. I was overwhelmed. I was so emotional during the whole time, and it was my second one. The first hip got infected septically. I knew something was wrong. It had popped out 6 times, and you can only imagine the pain.
Yeah.
When a hip pops out of socket, you can't move. I've never experienced pain like that, and I hope I never have to do that again. But it had popped out 6 times, and my surgeon he just kept telling me, "Well, you're breaking protocol." I'm like, "I'm not breaking protocol. Something's wrong, man." But finally, he decided he was going to go in there and put a bigger ball in the socket so it don't slip out so easy. And I wasn't too sure that was the answer. And sure enough, when he cut me open, it was so fully infected with staph. It basically squirted out, hit him in the face. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it was just. Of course, I'm out, but this is what I'm told later. Yes, he opened me up with a quick 40-minute procedure. Well, a 40-minute procedure turned into a 4-hour procedure, and they had to take the original hip out. He had to go in there and squirt out he had to clean out as much staph as he could. They had to put a temporary hip in. I was on a PICC line for 3 months. And had to get rid of that infection, and finally I went back in. He had to cut me open again, take the temporary hip out, and put the permanent one in. It's in there, but I'm damaged goods. The right hip's damaged goods, and
well, man, the fans rallied around you big time. When I saw that GoFundMe, there's certain.
I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was just overwhelmed with emotion. I cried a lot.
Yeah, man. I mean, and you have to.
I cried a lot.
I'm sure it's hard in your position, from having fought since the Couture fight, but you're one of those guys those figures, those names that when MMA fans hear, they perk up. They love talking about them. You're easily one of, I would say, one of the most universally beloved figures in the history of mixed martial arts, and you should never ever forget that at all. And if you say you're thinking about a comeback, correct?
Well, no, not a fight comeback, just a comeback in life, man. I'm coming back in life.
Well, you should, man. Like the stories you're telling, like
I realize I'm starting to do Instagram. I'm starting to do Twitter.
Hell yeah.
I'm starting to do Facebook. I did nothing like that.
Why don't you have a podcast, man? The stories you could tell would be fucking incredible. Like, why don't you do something like that?
It's quite possible, but my confidence was just taken. Confidence is a key.
Absolutely, in anything. But
confidence is a key to anything, and my confidence was shaken and shattered by this hip replacement, and then the one that got infected, and then it popped out 6 times. I was in a bad place.
Of course, man. All that shit has to just weigh on you emotionally, and not even just on top of the physical stuff. But
yes,
like,
well, it probably led me to, I drank too much. I possibly drank too much, but take out the word possibly. I drank too much just to deal with my demons and.
But you're so aware. Like when I talk, I'm talking to a man right now that sounds so aware of who he is, and it sounds like the one thing that you're maybe aren't aware of enough is just how much fans appreciate you and everything you've done and the memories you've given me. I've been a mixed martial arts fan. I was born in '89, and my parents, my brother, my dad were ordering all the old fights, and you're one of the original fighters that sticks out in my mind. And if I'm like that, there's thousands, tens of thousands, if not millions of people around the world like that. And I guarantee you, if you did something like a podcast, a video podcast, telling stories about the Pride tournament, UFC 10, UFC 12, people would love to hear that, because you're one of those guys, again, that people in this community care about hearing from entirely. And I think I'd be willing to talk to you about like getting you with the right person, because sometimes if it's a confidence thing, having that person that can guide the conversation goes a long way. I think you would do an incredible job.
Well, that's what it is. The confidence was not there, and now I'm clean.
Hell yeah.
I was also taking anti-anxiety pills, and I've gotten off those.
That's awesome.
I'm weaning myself off. I'm not totally off them, but
you're doing it the right way.
Yes, all of a sudden, you can tell it's obvious that my head is clear. And you said, I didn't realize. I never realized the effect that I have had on people, but now that the messages that I'm getting by doing this Twitter and Instagram, I've had people say, you changed my life, and I've had people say, you saved my life, and my gosh, to hear something like that, man, I'm trying to get, getting clean like this has brought back my emotions. My emotions were pretty much kind of just dead.
Yeah,
numb. Right.
Now they're back, and I'm reading this, and I do realize, wow, I have touched
you're beloved.
A lot of people across this world.
A lot of people have touched me.
Just to send this person just to respond and reply to him, and I realized, man, I just made this guy's day, and I gave him, one day of peace and happiness, and I personally feel like I've always been the best out there to the fans. I've never turned down, I can't say never, because sometimes I was running late to a fight, and I would have all these people wanting me to stop and sign, but I was already late, and Dana's going to be pissed or whatever, whoever's the boss at the time. I got to get down there. So I had to. The only times I turned them down is when I was running late. But other than that, I would stick. Pride would always get upset with me. Not Pride, the security guards. After the show's over, I would be out there, and the fans. At first, there was about a handful. They'd come running down, wanting my autograph, but people would see. The Japanese fans are very smart. They would see, oh, look at Coleman. He's going to sign every one of them.
Listen, Mr. Coleman, listen, I've been relatively quiet this whole time. This is actually Taylor. I'm the co-host. Oh, you watch, I listen. I know I've been quiet, but yeah.
Well, hi, Taylor.
Well, just because in all honesty, I'm relatively, as far as a fandom in like mixed martial arts, I'm relatively new, and I've learned a lot from Dan. And I remember when I first getting in touch with it, you were the main guy that Dan would make me watch your Pride fights, your UFC fights, and I just been taking in all your stories and all your experiences and learning what you've gone through, and it's really a great story, and the fact that you're willing to share that story with your fans and go through your trials and tribulations, you know what I mean? Like, it makes you more relatable, and it shows that, you're this larger-than-life figure that fought the likes of Big Nog, Fedor Emelianenko, Mirko Krokop, and you can experience the same things as us normal folk. You know what I mean?
Because we all have one thing in common. We are human.
Exactly.
Amen.
But I also want to say wholeheartedly, like I said, just listening to you talk and going through all your experiences, I was just in awe, and I would say it's an absolute honor to speak to you today, Mr. Coleman, and just wanted to wish you the best. Congratulations on your sobriety. That's not an easy battle, and you're not alone in any of this, so congratulations, pal, and it's an honor to talk to you today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, that's why I am opening up. I've been very recluse since retirement.
Well,
And,
Mark,
I've heard a lot of people that I loved over these last 6 years, and I cannot take it back.
Hey, don't let your history be your destiny, man. You got so much in front of you.
I can't, because I have to forgive myself for the mistakes and the people I hurt. I am remorseful and sorry, but at the same time, I have to forgive myself, and I have. And now I'm taking the step forward every day instead of taking a step backwards. I'm taking a step forward.
And that's the only way you can do it. And I want to thank you again for taking some time with us. We'd love to talk to you again in the future.
Absolutely.
And again, if you want to talk to me any time about setting up some type of video podcast or podcast, I'll shoot you a message on Twitter. We can talk. But sincerely, thank you so much for taking some time with us. This was, for me, as a longtime fan, a real treat. And you talk about making people's day or their week. You just made my month, my year.
Real talk.
This was awesome for me.
I mean, it's amazing. I'm just starting to realize the impact I can have on people, and I do want to give back. And it's simply, as a guy sending me a inbox from Twitter saying, you saved my life. I've been.
There's more of them out there, man. There's plenty of them, and you'll get a lot more.
I'll say, dude, you're.
I'm realizing that I'm building my brand. I'm building it back up, and I'm
hell yeah.
I'm going to be successful so I can take care of my family. But
I'll say, dude, you're only scratching the surface with the people that you're going to reach, especially now in today's climate. You're going to help so many people just sharing your stories and your experiences, and I think that's the route you should definitely go. Because like I said, you've been there, you've seen it all, and you could just relate to these people. So I definitely think you're on the right track, and I could not be happier for you for everything that you're doing.
And again, I want to thank you again for taking some time with us.
Seriously, man, thank you so much.
I'll hit you up on Twitter, and we'll talk again soon. All right, Mark?
Yeah, we didn't finish any stories. We got halfway through every one of them, but I never finished any of them.
That's why we're gonna. That's why
Don't worry, there's gonna be a part 2.
We're gonna have a part 2, man. We're gonna make the Mark Coleman Chronicles on here.
I run into that problem all the time. I start a story and then I say a name and I just take a right turn.
So you and me, we'll talk offline soon, and we'll schedule something, and we'll figure out exactly like the way to guide it, so we stay on that track. So this episode will go up later today. I'll talk to you on Twitter during the week.
The hammer is back, baby.
On Twitter, it's You Watch I Listen. My name on Twitter is Jersey Perot. So look out for a message from me, and we'll talk. All right, Mark?
Okay, you follow me and then DM me, because I tell you what, I can't keep track.
I got you. I'll be persistent, man, and we'll talk, all right?
I just followed you on Instagram, so I'll do the same.
I get lost right now, but I gotta take the same attitude I took as becoming a
champion.
Olympian and then a MMA champion. I gotta take that same approach in life.
Hell yeah, dude. So, Mark, we'll talk soon. Thank you again so much, all right?
Take care, man.
All right, well, I'm going to get off this shitter now.
All right, dude.
This whole time.
Enjoy, man. Later.
I'll see you. Bye.
Wow, that was fucking cool, man. That was a lot of fun, man.
That was awesome.
So yeah, that was Mark the Hammer Coleman, UFC Hall of Famer. We almost went an hour with Mark, man. That was cool.
Well, because he's got so many different stories, like, and that's the same thing.
That's
Taylor,
why
didn't you
be
talk?
doing this? Brother can talk.
I say, like, dude, Taylor, why didn't you talk? I didn't want to interrupt anything, because he would go into 20 minutes about Kevin Randleman, and the next thing you know, we're finding out about, oh, dude, he fought Fedor. Like, it's all this cool, really cool shit. So that's why I just try to sit back and listen.
Think of all the experience
he
has.
Live on here will let me set up before we
between,
actually go live, because I want to see how the camera looks.